How's it going? So we are back in Tubbataha, episode 3 about the fishes of Tubbataha. But this is not a fish, it's a marine turtle. So here comes a triggerfish which just nipped me in the fin to remind me we should talk about fish. There's a separate video about triggerfish in Tubbataha only. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, fish biodiversity and biomass in Tubbataha. So this place is amazing. I went there with the one and only Professor Kent Carpenter, and I was filming Kent here. Unsuspectingly, below him there was a grey reef shark. So this is the kind of location. What do we have here? We have bumphead parrotfish, and these are very large fish. I believe they're up to 40 kilos per individual, and they occur in these big schools, so they're really like a herd of buffaloes. It's quite a sight. And in a lot of locations in the tropical Indo-Pacific, these have been fished out. Obviously, there's a lot of fish meat in when you just catch a single one, and often you can just catch a whole school, and then it's very difficult to re-establish populations. You can see these powerful beaks, and these are fish which eat living corals, not just this coral rubber with their endolithic algae, which so many other parrotfish species feed on. So, barracudas, another very good sign. These are piscivores, these are fish-eating fish, and these higher up in the food chain fish are very valuable. Very striking in Tubbataha, these are these red-toothed triggerfish, and sometimes you don't see a single one, and sometimes you see these schools with many hundreds of them. So generally, the biodiversity here is high, like in so many other places in the Coral Triangle, but also the biomass is very high. Sharks. So this is a grey reef shark with a shark sucker on its back, and this is really amazing to see them very often. Also, a lot of very large surgeonfish. These are herbivorous fish, algae grazers. I see them in other places in the Philippines too. There are way more in Tubbataha, and on top of that, they are bigger. They grow to larger sizes. And again, here we have a school of barracudas, and then in the middle there is another grey reef sharks. So these fish, which are very high up in the trophic web, in the food web, the food chain, they are still happily living in Tubbataha. So here we have a reticulated butterfly fish, very rare. We've only seen this once. My friend Daniel Campos saw one 10 years ago during a different survey. This is another species of butterfly fish. Generally, the biodiversity of many fish families is very high. Typically, you would see more than 10 species of butterfly fish on every single dive. Butterfly fish biodiversity is also high in other locations in the Coral Triangle, but not like in Tubbataha. So even the more rare species are still around on Tubbataha reefs. Generally, the fish also are really friendly towards divers. It's easier to approach them because they're not being fished, they're not being spearfished, they're not afraid of humans. This is a very good sign for the ecosystem health in Tubbataha too. What do we have here? A pipefish, which is really rare in Tubbataha. This is a seahorse relative. They're not that rare on the bigger islands in the Philippines. Very curious. Of course, we have a lot of gobies in Tubbataha. So we have these steep walls, and then there are these balconies and these crevices on these walls. In these walls, the number of goby species is very high. This is a goby of the genus Iviota, and this is a signal fin goby here, which gives us a signal with its fin. The gobies live on all these invertebrates, so on these encrusting corals. There's another Iviota here. On these encrusting corals, you see a lot of gobies. In the sand, there are shrimp gobies. So here you see a small shrimp which commensally lives with this goby. Again, this is something which needs sand, and there is more of this symbiosis on the big islands in the Philippines than in Tubbataha, but the shrimp goby still exists here. So this is one of Randall's shrimp gobies. So what a beautiful fish. To me, that's a king shrimp goby. There are also cardinal fish, and there are more of them in the lagoons. We'll get to that in a future video. Also, quite a few species of blennies, although the individual number of blennies is not as high as what a lot of people tell me. They were only 10-15 years ago. So, what happened to the blennies in the coral triangle coral reefs, we're not sure. But always a pleasure to observe these very active small fish, of course. Where do you find the blennies? Well, you have to dive very slowly and look in all of these crevices. And then you will be able to find quite a number of species. So generally, Tubbataha, of course, is impressing with sharks and manta rays. But if you look at the medium-sized to small reef fishes, like these bannerfish here, or like this grouper, you will also have a lot to discover. Interestingly, there are fish species which exist on the larger islands of the Philippines, but not in Tubbataha. So this is footage from Negros. This striped eel catfish we have not seen in Tubbataha. Also, these seahorses, other than the pygmy seahorses living on sea fans, but this hippocampal scooter, I believe, we have not recorded from Tubbataha. This is an ambon scorpionfish, also not known from Tubbataha. Generally, scorpionfish exist there, but they're very rare. And very curiously, in so many dives, I think at this point it's almost 90 dives, I've not seen sea urchins in Tubbataha. I think because the herbivorous fishes have taken this niche of being grazers. So I hope that was interesting to you. Check back next week and there will be more material from Tubbataha. Also check back the previous 2 episodes and have a great week.